So I suppose the question is, what do we do about that? You know, what do we do that? These questions of giving real, authentic, valued roles to young people in school. And by the way, I mean, my inspiration for this was a guy called Art Pearl, who was Professor of Education at Santa Cruz. And he wrote a book years ago in the 60s called The Value of Youth, after writing another book called The Atrocity of Education. And so what we've got to do is to talk about the value that young people can have today. So some of the ways we've been doing this, and these are both with primary and secondary schools here in Australia, mainly in Victoria, because that's just like physically where I am, is that we've been actually, well, I suppose the work that I've been doing around the last 10, 12 years has been around a concept called student action teams, where we take an issue that's in the school or within the local community that the students are concerned about. So the one, for example, was that a 2-year-old had been killed outside one of the schools, been run over by the canteen manager. So it was on the minds of the students about safety in that local area. So instead of coming in and teaching at the kids about how to cross the road safely and things like that, we posed the issue of safety as a dilemma that we didn't have the answers to in the local area. And we asked the students what's safe and unsafe about the local area. So they came up with things. You know, that road over there, cars whiz down that road, they exceed the speed limit. Another one said it's the pick up and drop off time after school. Parents come the wrong way down the street and it's dangerous. So they knew what the safety issues were. But then also, instead of actually saying to them, wow kids, you know, aren't you great, you know this, we then queried that. We said, really, is that true? Would the little kids in the school regard that as the safety issue? Would the seniors in the school regard that as the safety issue? So we challenged them on that. We said, basically, you need to do deep research about this. And so there were research questions that they then took back over a period of about 2 months. They then worked in school groups to actually research what the safety issues were in their community, which meant to do some survey work amongst the other students and saying, this is our priority for safety, but also ask questions about what causes that and things like that. So, for example, when the busy road near the school, that group of students went and borrowed a speed gun from the local police and stood outside the school and collected hard data about what the speeds were of cars passing the school and things like that. And then they started, they brought all that back together. We had a research symposium of about 70 or 80 students in 14 different teams. And they came and reported back what they had found out. And then we posed the question, what sort of action you can take. And then we had to sort of unpack action because they all wanted to build roundabouts. So rather than say, yeah, no, you can't build a roundabout, we said, how much would that cost? And so they had to go through an investigative inquiry approach about what would a realistic outcome be. They got in members of the local council, the guy who was in charge of building roads and roundabouts, and asked him how much would a roundabout cost, and he calculated it in 1.75 million. And they said that's a lot of sausages to sizzle and sell to raise that sort of money. And that then led to the students and us determining something which I thought we'd made up, but I actually found a version of it later on the internet-y thingy, which was the 4 E's, which was to talk about engineering, enforcement, encouragement and education. And having those headings worked out with the students, it allowed them to brainstorm different forms of action that they could take. So if they can't build a roundabout, what could be an educational solution? So the students, one stage at one of the schools, started issuing pamphlets to the parent body about correct behaviour during pick-up and drop-off. Or the students at another school met with the local public transport board and asked them to send a tram along at the time that school got out instead of 20 minutes, so the kids weren't waiting around on a traffic island and things like that. So there was getting into real action that they could take. And all of that was talking with the students about themselves as real change agents and community development agents within their local areas. And some of the others we've worked on with primary school students, looking at the questions of what does engagement mean? So querying those. We worked again with 6 schools looking at values. So instead of actually telling the students there are values like respect and what this means, we actually got the students to interrogate the nature of values within their community and the degree to which the school enacted those values.